What's good, everybody? Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Over Quota. Please don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review if you haven't already. Now, this episode is actually the first episode that will be sponsored by someone other than my own business. So this episode is sponsored by 180 Degree Selling. Bigger quotas, larger sales, and longer sales cycles require selling differently to get different results. Do a 180. Go to 180degreeselling.com and download your free playbook today. Also, by the way, the founder and sales performance coach, David Susan, appeared on Over Quota. He was episode number 5, where we talked about what he calls the 3 balls of performance. So go back and listen to that episode if you haven't done so already. And like always, the J. David Group, which is my company, is sponsoring this episode. My company helps high growth software companies recruit top software sales leaders and salespeople. Go to the jdavidgroup.com/hiring to learn more, or go to the jdavidgroup.com/looking if you're looking for your next big challenge. Now, my guest today is someone that I've known for pretty much almost my entire headhunting career, frankly. I started recruiting back in 2006, 2007, so almost 15 years I've known him. He's Eric Sherman, the Northeast Regional Vice President of Sales at Dynatrace, which provides software intelligence to simplify cloud complexity and accelerate digital transformation. Eric, welcome to Over Quota.
Thanks for having me. Good to be here, man.
Thanks for helping me out today. Eric actually is my guest today because I had a last-minute cancellation, but that's what happens when you have relationships as long as we've had. So I really appreciate you and appreciate you coming on.
No problem.
So let's just start there. Hold on, let me just make sure that I almost stopped this recording, which I did not want to do. Let's just start with your career, because I'm just curious about some of the ways that you've been able to sustain your success for such a long period of time. Every time you've gone to a company, you seem to really get in, sink your teeth into it, do really well, grow it, promote people, all the right things that I think a lot of sales leaders want to do and emulate. So walk me through your career leading up to Dynatrace, if you will.
Sure. Well, I'd like to say that, there's really no magic formula, right? Unfortunately, or fortunately, I've been really lucky to work with great people, right? And so you can put all the processes in place, you can have the greatest product in the world in a hot market, but if you don't have good people working for you on a regular basis, it's always going to be a challenge, right? And so that's where you've always provided, great service for me in the 3 different places that I've been, and it's just true. The first thing. So one of the things I've learned, only being at 3 different ones over the course of, I think you said like 17 years or something like that. I'm getting old. It's really about coming in and immediately assessing, your team, the team that you have, right? Because again, no matter how good the processes you put in place or the processes that exist or the product, it's people that are selling every day and executing that make the difference, right? So I talk a lot to the team at Dynatrace all the time that the reason we win or lose comes down to you, right? And the you is really the rep, the services folks, the SE, the people who are selling to those customers and prospects every day. We win or lose because of them, right? The technology, people say technology sells itself. It doesn't sell itself. People sell our technology, and their ability to execute at a high level on a regular basis is really what really makes the difference between us growing at 5% or us growing at 30%, right? It's their ability to do that. So when I always say job 1, as I mentioned, is coming in, assessing the current team you have. That can take 30 days. It could take a quarter, right? Because some people, you need time to really understand if they're not performing at the level that you expect them to, what's their roadblocks, right? Maybe it's not them. Maybe it's something that's going on systemically in the business that's hampering their ability or muting their ability to execute. So, and once you do that, you might have to swap some people out, move some people out, and bring in some new people, and some of the current people might not fit the model, right? I think the go-to-market selling strategy and model of the company is really important to match the individuals that you hire. You'll see sometimes, often that the go-to-market strategy and the individuals that may be in seat today don't necessarily match up well, right? I mean, you can see that. You can have a more hyper-transactional model and have people who are more big deal strategic folks, and then you can see the reverse of that. So that's really job one, and it's amazing once you get the people in place. And sometimes it takes much longer. When I was at Neotis, I would like to say that I was able to understand that and really turn that quicker, and I wasn't able to. But yet, conversely, I was there 6 years. It probably took me a year and a half, almost 2 years, to get the right players in place. And once they were in place, it was a dramatic difference in terms of sales execution and growth on a consistent basis. And then when I came to Dynatrace, there was a really good team in place already, so I didn't have to change out as many pieces and parts, but I changed them out. And once I changed them out, I think we've seen, I saw faster results and improvements by changing the team at Dynatrace. I was just able to turn that corner and change people faster. And I've been here just over a year and a half. We had a fantastic first year, and we're having a really good second year, even despite COVID, and we're growing, right? And we're going to continue to grow and scale the team. So I know it's simple, but it's people, right? I mean, it comes down to people, and it comes down to people executing.
Let me ask you this: how do you separate when you're assessing your new team? Let's just say, how do you separate the people from the process, or even the go-to-market strategy in that case, right? And then to what you had said, like at Neotis, it took you a little over a year, almost 2 years, to sort of understand what you had there before you could start moving pieces of the puzzle, so to speak. How do you manage expectations, when you're working with, let's say, the CEO or maybe members of the board, while you're trying to, understand and assess the talent as it pertains to the market and the product and all that other stuff, right? Because to my point, right, you're 3 companies, 17 years, you're bucking the trend. A lot of times people, it's 18 months on average, and someone is sort of looking for another opportunity, typically at your level. So talk to me a little bit about that.
Well, so 2 things. I'll answer the last one first because I've had some pretty good longevity. Mm-hmm. I would say it's just persistence, right? I mean, when I started at Core, we were really small, and I was a rep, and I got an opportunity to grow into management and continue to grow with the company, which I appreciate the fact that they were able to afford me that opportunity and do that. So that was one sort of trajectory that I was able to achieve, but I also managed there for, half of my tenure, right, over the decade. And it's just persistence and seeing something through, right? When you grow something like that, you really want to see its successful conclusion. And then at Neotis, really a lot of it was the same. I mean, I think, and this will dovetail into how do you manage those expectations. I think when you talk to a CEO at Neotis and a board and a company, you have to set the expectations with them when you come in of how are you going to operate in those first 90 to 60 days. I mean, people lay out plans. They tend to get a little generic. It's really hard to lay out a 30, 60, 90-day plan when you're coming in and you don't know the business. You're seeing it from the outside. You really don't know until you get into the business. And I think the analytical side of sales management is really important as the people coaching and side as well, and the strategy side, right? I think you need all of those. Sometimes you get caught up too much in KPIs and metrics, and you miss the personal development and coaching side. And then there's also the how do you improve processes and strategy for the company as you're doing these things. So I think you have to come in, and to your point, set expectations. I need to understand the business. I need to understand how things work today. I need to understand our marketing flow, our lead gen flow, our customer acquisition process that someone undertakes today. I need to find out where are the bottlenecks, where are the barriers that are causing friction for people to be successful. To your point, it's not just about, hey, I come in and I talk to you and I hear your plan, and you hear a lot of the same cliches and things, but you got to understand what are the barriers that are causing friction today. And then from the people side, it's, you can tell pretty quickly if people understand their business, where they may have shortcomings or not, where they need help. But that's about spending one-on-one time, even no matter what level of management I think you're at, or you get to, or you aspire to, or you sit today. Nothing can replace spending individual time with people in your organization in different environments, not just a weekly. I shouldn't say this because it's probably embarrassing and people wouldn't get. I don't have one-on-ones. I spend so much time ad hoc and talking to the folks who work with me that I don't really set aside a specific time. So I'll be in the field and I will randomly have lunch with a rep just off the cuff. Hey, let's go grab lunch. And you get to see people in different environments, not just presenting in front of a customer or client, not just presenting at a QBR, not just at lunch. You see them in different environments all the time. And I think you just get to learn more about the person and figure out, hey, do they have the DNA? Do they have the attitude? Do they have the competency to succeed here? And attitude is big, right? Attitude is number one in my book. You will never overcome a bad attitude on your team with performance. And it's just like sports. When everybody's winning, the bad attitudes you put up with, you tolerate. The second it doesn't go well, those bad attitudes become amplified and destroy everything that you're trying to work on as a team, because it's a team, it's a culture, it's an organization. And if you have negative attitudes on your team and everyone's not investing in a positive outcome for everyone, then you're just always going to have a little bit of a damper in there. And to me, it's just, that's the non-starter. If the attitude is bad, because there's a difference between complaining and constructive criticism of the business, right? We all can complain. You need to be there as a sounding board to listen, but you also have to understand what are the constructive criticism and take action. I think reps, the organization, you can do more damage by just listening and not taking action, right? People need to see that you're helping improve the business and improve their ability to be successful, right? So, those are just some of the things that, we work on and we talk about. I mean, to me, talking about what's in Salesforce, KPIs and metrics, that's just the basics, right? You grab data. We can all talk about data. I think people talk too much about data. It just is informative of where's the business heading? Are we heading in the right direction or the wrong direction? And then the analysis to say, what can I do to help change that outcome? Yelling at the clouds all the time that a KPI isn't good, or we're not making enough calls, or we don't have enough demos, or we don't have enough this, doesn't help anyone, doesn't help a rep. Finding out what's not working and then helping out, right? Like, oh, our messaging isn't great, or I need help on my demo because we're not getting business value across. Okay, connect them with one of their peers. I don't know. There's things you can do, but the metric side and the KPI side to me is just the bottom base of the table. It's really about, how do I come into an organization, into a group, see what's going on, even things that are outside of your immediate control that are impacting your folks' ability to execute, that you can help with. Because, I've said it before, you don't need a title in order to make change in an organization. Change can come from everywhere. It can come from an SE, it can come from a BDR, it can come from a marketing person, a product person. You just have to listen to what they're saying and understand, hey, you're learning from all levels. I get what you're saying. How can we help the organization see that this is a challenge? Because I don't buy that cliche of, don't come to me with problems, come to me with solutions. Come to me with the problem, come to me with the challenge, and let's figure out solutions. Maybe we don't have one today. Maybe we don't know what the solution is, but at least we know that there's a problem. And too many people don't want to recognize sometimes that they have a challenge or a problem, because it's easier to ignore it if no one's really saying anything about it. So to me, that's the assessment part, I guess.
If you mentioned something outside of the organization that might be impacting the rep, let's just say, and you can sort of help with that. Give me an example of what that would be.
There's two go-to-markets really when you think about it. It's indirect selling and direct selling, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so your direct selling capacity usually involves many different moving pieces and parts. You have how do you go to market to collect leads to get new customers? How do you process those? Do you use outsource or insource BDRs? How does that go to the rep? How does that relationship work? How does that whole process work? And something that can negatively impact a rep is, well, this front end funnel process doesn't really work as efficiently as it should. But I'm on the hook to generate pipeline on a monthly, weekly, monthly, quarterly basis. But this is hampering my ability because in some organizations, they may not even get those leads. Those leads are being worked by someone else. How do you help that group and your AEs connect and say, wait a second, this process flow isn't efficient. It's not working. But that's outside of your control. Mm-hmm. Same thing could be a partner. The partner organization could sit outside of sales or sit adjacent to sales. How do you get reps to buy into the value that the indirect go to market, because you have to give margin or whatever for partners, can be a really valuable vehicle for you? You may have had a bad experience. A partner came in late on a deal. A partner could have a bad experience with an organization. We brought you the deal. You cut us out. How do you get synergy with the partner folks to work really well with you, right? The SE organization can sit outside. Maybe there's things we're doing in the demos that aren't necessarily helping our individual AEs. So instead of just saying, okay, replace the person, get rid of it or do whatever, it says, understand what we're doing. Let's come up with a plan with how we can make it better. How can we demo better? How can we have better messaging? How can we do these things better? And my philosophy has been, and it's changed over time, is less preaching, more collaboration. So most of the training sessions or work that I do now, I'm not doing the real work. The work is done by we have regional directors, but then it's really done by the reps collaborating. And I have 5 different regions. So what we do is we cross collaborate across those regions and allow reps to do the presenting. The reps talk about how they've driven business value. The reps talk about how they're prospecting and what's working. And we do that on a regular basis, and everyone gets to share what's working, what's not working, but from different groups and also different voices, because I can dominate a room, I can dominate a conversation. I have to remove myself so I don't. And I think it's good for the organization and it's good for AEs and everyone to hear from a different voice. Up here sometimes can be more valuable hearing about how something's working than someone in management, so they don't think this isn't just a management initiative that we're pushing down. Right. This is us coming together as a group and at the street level and saying, here's how we can do a better job. Do people find value in that? If people don't find value in it, don't do the training exercise. It's not necessary. Don't bother doing it anymore.
What technology are you using to enable that kind of training, I guess, now? And what did you do previously? Was it all just everybody sat in person once a quarter to do something like that? Or was it always online? Because obviously with multiple different regions, how did it work? And how are you doing it in a way that, you're keeping people engaged while you're doing the training?
Yeah, so right now, more than ever, it's hard to stay engaged with people, right? And especially if you're a field selling force, it can get really lonely being in your house alone all the time. It's tough to stay motivated. There's so many things going on. I've gone out in the field many times just to have lunch in small groups. We've gotten together in small groups, social distancing, and making sure we follow all of the protocols. But we've done that. That was the first thing I did after we were opened up probably in May, late April, early May, to start traveling a little bit. That's the first thing I did, was get back out onto the road and see everyone. I think it's important to see everyone in person, just talk to them, have lunch with them, do that. In terms of our training, we're doing it through Zoom now. We set it up weekly, allow the RDs to set it up, different cohorts of reps. I changed my QBR, and I've done this for a couple of years now, as moving away from reporting the news and telling me what's going to happen into how do we make the QBR a valuable collaborative opportunity to share information and train, because there's not enough training and coaching. You don't have enough time in the day. I can see the numbers every month, every week in Salesforce. If I don't know, even at my level, and I have now, I don't even know, 30 plus reps, 6 managers underneath me. I know the deals to the point where I know what's going on with a rep. I'm not so deep into it, but I know what's going on. I don't need to spend time reporting news and numbers. I think that's not valuable for 6 people to sit in a room and for one rep to talk about his numbers and KPIs while another rep is sitting there, not interested. And there's a reason they're not interested, because it doesn't impact them. We try to minimize that and maximize our time doing an AE and an SE getting up and doing something simple like, tell us why a CIO would want to talk to Dynatrace. Go. You have no slides. You have no whiteboard. The internet doesn't work in that office. Whatever it is, tell us what matters and why we should talk to you. Doing things like that, presenting business value worksheets. Each person will do one and will help the person kind of vet out what questions should they ask when they have that next interaction. So I use the QBRs now as an opportunity to do that, and we've moved away from the traditional sort of QBR, and as well moved away from just every week rolling up numbers, right? I mean, we know the numbers, put them in. If I have questions, I'll give you a call, but it seemed to have worked.
I was just about to ask that. Maybe it's a hard question, but is there a way to quantify or qualify the difference in the results of the way you do quick QBRs now as opposed to before? But it's probably hard, right? It's just anecdotal, right? To a certain extent.
No, I mean, it's sales execution. If you can improve your close rate, your win rate by 5%, that takes a tremendous amount of pressure off of pipeline generation. Let's say pipeline generation is a challenge. It's a challenge for everyone. If you improve your sales execution and win rate by 5% or 10%, that is a big difference, right? That could be closing $1 million more next quarter and relieve some of the pressure. Not that you want to continually not focus on improving the pipeline. If you do all those things, you have a winner, right? So to your point, how do you quantify it? Win rate is a big one for sales execution. And when we talk about, hey, we want to improve prospecting and pipeline generation, that's really easy. Are we generating more pipeline now than we did in the past? I mean, we either are or we aren't, because there has to be some kind of tangible benefit outcome that you can show to the business the reason why you're doing something. Otherwise, why do it, to your point? And I think, when I look at the business, it says, hey, we're going to improve our prospecting by working with partners more, having weekly sessions with our reps to map an account against the partners that are in there. How would we know that works? More registered deals with partners, more new business pipeline with partners, and more pipeline overall. So you measure those things and say, is it working or is it not working? So we've seen that partner piece improve. We want to get it to a certain level, which we're not at today. So we have to keep pushing hard on that to get the results. But definitely win rate is a big one. That's the measure of sales effectiveness and execution. If it slides back from 20 to 15, then you automatically start going through the process and seeing, okay, where's the break? Where are we missing something? Why did we slip? Why aren't we closing at the rate that we were closing before?
And just to go back to something we talked about in the beginning, which is, because I want to be clear on this, there's the assessing the business, and then there's the assessing and evaluating the talent that you have in front of you. Are you doing that simultaneously, or is it assessing the business first and then assessing the people second?
No, I mean, it's simultaneous, right? I think your job is to, first of all, you're going into a new company and you have to learn what they do. I think everyone, selling methodologies are great. Every organization's go-to-market strategy, the way they sell, the culture they have, the way the individuals sell there, the way the individuals interact with the AE, SE, SDR, they're all different. I mean, I've seen 3 different machinations of this, if you will. Your job is to come in and quickly learn, what does this company do? Are we really talking about business value? Are we really selling the way that you think would be effective? What are your early observations? When you come in, a board and a CEO are going to want your early observations. What's working? What's not working? You have to look at the commission plan. Is it driving the right behavior? You have to look at how you acquire new customers. You have to look at how you treat existing customers. Is your churn rate good? How do you handle your customers today? Do you have them broken into tiers? I've worked where we had our customers not broken into tiers, and then we had to get to a point where we had to tier them because clearly our largest enterprise customers needed to be treated differently than our SMB, right? So these are really important things that you need to look at relative to your go-to-market strategy, because you need one for sales. What's your sales GTM that aligns to your corporate go-to-market strategy? How are you going to, what field are you going to play on, and how are you going to play, and how are you going to execute? And you're doing those simultaneously to figure out, is everything aligned or are we misaligned? And if you find misalignment, how are you going to bring that into alignment? Right? It might be, hey, I see that we say one thing, but we really should be going at this differently. We need more field people, or we need more SMB people, or whatever the case may be. And you're assessing the talent at the same time. And I think the people talent assessment doesn't take very long. I mean, you sit down with someone, you go through their pipeline, how are deals going, where have you been effective? When you lose, why do you lose? What do you do when you lose? I mean, all those things I think are pretty quick to assess. The business stuff can take a little bit longer.
When you're looking at the individual and you say they're quick to assess, going back to what you were saying in terms of attitude, right? Is that often where you see where you need to make, or the reason why you need to make the change? Because when you mentioned, going through their deals and those types of things, at the end of the day, is it that they either don't understand how to sell fundamentally, like they don't understand the business, they don't understand how to prioritize certain things, or is it often their attitude where they're just, their behaviors aren't necessarily aligning with what they should be?
I think it's situational, right? I mean, there's just so many different personalities and situations that you run into. I mean, you've probably seen this, right? You can run into a good rep in a great patch, and they look like a great rep. And you can run into a good rep with a hamstrung patch, and now they look like the worst rep that's ever walked the face of the planet Earth, right? And so what you need to figure out in those two situations is, does the person have good selling skills, fundamentals to be able to sell? And that's just the case, and you have to try to figure out how to get a patch and a territory together to help them. Or is it the other? They really don't have good selling capability in fundamentals, and they're just in a really good patch, and we could do better, and you could have pushed them a little bit more. The attitude thing is pretty easy off. Straight away, the attitude thing is pretty easy. I mean, you can see who wants to be open to change and who isn't open to change. So one of the things we've been talking about over the past year and in past 2 years at Dynatrace is we're a really big company, right? And so the strategy comes from here and down. But I look at the group and say, if you want something, we should paint the picture of how we think we should drive our piece of the business, right? You should disrupt instead of being disrupted. And so that's important, because all too often you say, well, they'll hand us the quota, more reps, more quota. What are we going to do? And I say, get creative. Should you verticalize? Should you do mid-market? Should you add more partner reps? Can you, do things differently with the group that you have today? Add more people at the more strategic level for reps. So be a disruptor. Don't always get disrupted. I think senior management, boards, whatever, I think they're hungry to hear what they have, but they don't always push down to get that information, right? They're not always building a plan from the bottom up. You sort of have to cause your own, disruption. But back to the thing, the attitude is the most important thing. I mean, you come in and you set a tone, you set expectations of a way in which you're going to work, in which you're going to operate. And I think you create an open environment where people can share what they have to share. And one of the reps, when I first came into Dynatrace, it was funny, but he was being honest, and he said, "Wow, you came to Dynatrace. It looks like you took a step back because you reported directly to the CEO of Neotis, right? But see, Neotis was much smaller. But I appreciated his honesty and willingness to say that and know that, hopefully he knew that I wasn't going to have such thin skin I was going to retaliate. He was a rep. He's now manager of that group, right? So yeah, I think it was just a testament to him to be open, but he also bought in, came early, sat down and said, hey, I really want to be a manager someday. What do I need to do? How can I help you, right? And so, that kind of, initiative, honesty, openness, transparency had a really positive attitude. Then you have other reps that come in and they'll sit like this. You can see by the body language. Yeah, okay, yeah, things are pretty good. Yeah, I know this isn't good. This process stinks. Blah blah blah, and then it's pretty quick. Instantly, I don't like that attitude. I'm going to give you an opportunity here. Here's what's going to happen. I'm going to hit the reset button. I don't care what happened yesterday. All I care about what's happening today that's going to impact our outcome for tomorrow. So I'll help you. I'll invest. But you need to invest in the relationship as well. And if you don't invest, then I stop investing and then we're done. But I'll put the effort in. But I need you to put the effort in and I need you to have the right attitude. Things are always going to be challenging. No business is perfect. You're going to run into some things you can't control. You're going to run into situations where you're not going to like things that go on. How are you going to react to those? And I think if you react in a way where you can get upset, but let's move on, and how can we make it better?
When you transitioned from managing reps to managing other managers and leading other managers, what were the challenges, I guess, and what were the differences between, and still are, I guess, the difference between managing reps versus managing managers?
Yeah, no, that's good. The biggest challenge was, how do I allow them to run their business? And so this goes back to the people aspect, right? The best feeling is confidence in the folks that are running the business, even at the rep level, right? When you have competent people who can run a cycle without you, not that they don't come to you and don't collaborate, because that's important, but they don't need you to close that deal. And you have that feeling, it's awesome. It's awesome because you can go work on things that will help make the business even better. That will help them generate more pipeline. That will help them close more deals. Systemic things inside the business that you can improve that will help them. Because I don't think there's anything better that you can do for a rep than help make their job more efficient, more effective. What are you going to do? The job is not just, hey, what are your numbers? Hey, you're not closing enough. You got to do more. Hey, let me dissect that deal and get inside. Come on. How are you going to really help them, right? How are you going to help them? So understanding those. So one, it was understanding what they do every day as an RD in Dynatrace. And it's a very challenging job. They're managing reps. They're managing up. They're right squarely in the middle of the front line every day. They're architecting large deals with folks. They have to figure out how to motivate people all the time. They have to figure out how to, remove that. And I'll use that word friction because that's what it is. How do you remove the friction in some of the processes that just sometimes seem archaic and slow? How do you do that? So I give them a ton of credit. So what can I do? What did I have to do? My challenge was to say, I looked at the business. I've listened to what you said. And typically what I try to do is lay out 3 things that we can work on, or 2 or 4, but I try not to pick too many because you can't work on so many things at once. Let's pick some things out that we can improve upon, right? Prospecting, partners, sales execution. Then I listen to them and what isn't working in the business that's causing frustration that we can make better. And then this goes back to what I said. Listening is one thing. If you don't act upon it, disengagement happens. Yeah, I tell Eric things are wrong. He listens, but nothing's going to change, right? And so, we stress that. We have to show the organization, we have to show the reps that we're working to make things better, that we're trying to help them make things better that get in their way. So the real difference for me from the direct to now managing managers is I'm not, and I miss it a little bit. I'm not inside all the deals, trying to figure out how to, move the dial on them all the time. I'm not in that every day. I enjoyed that. I love being in the field with them, and I get that opportunity to see that. I think that's important. I never want to get away from that. It's important to see what happens every day. What are they dealing with? What are some of the things we can help them out with? But from an RD level, it's get the right people, and then honestly, a lot of it is I stay out of their way. I mean, they don't need me micromanaging them. They call me, they text me. We have funny joke texts going on all day long. I'll hear from it at 9 o'clock in the night. A text stream will start going off. We have a great relationship, right? That I don't have to set aside one-on-one time. I talk to almost every one of them every day. And it's not me reaching out, it's them reaching out to me. And I don't have to wait a week to hear that something needs to happen. Hey, I think I might have a problem with X, or hey, we really need to think about doing this or improving this or whatever. We don't need to wait. Let's do it all the time, and we don't need to, to do it. So mine has really been be there for them, support them, more pats on the back, more hugs all the time. I'm not a big, if there's any failing, I'm not a big stick guy. I'm not going to go around beating people over the head. That's not what I do. What I do is I want to tell you how great you're doing. I want to try to do as much praise as possible. Remember to say thank you. It's often forgotten. I forget it too. Thank them all the time. They're working really hard, even though the results might not be there. Thank people all the time. And then what can I do instead of the stick? It's put my hands inside the business and do work. Help, help, help. The stick only comes out and it's real simple. You set that expectation. I work hard, you work hard. We all work hard. Effort is the minimum. That's what everybody put. If you don't put the effort in, then we're done. I don't need to do any more stick than that. Put the effort in. We work on the effective part, but the effort's got to be there every day. Then it makes the stick really easy. You don't put the effort in, we're done. I don't need to sit there and yelling about it, screaming about it, emails, trying to motivate them if they don't want to work hard is a non-starter. Just move on.
2 follow-up questions to that, which is, what do you see new managers, I guess, and that could be either a new manager or a team, could be a manager who yesterday was a rep and now has just become a manager. You just alluded to one of the people that you promoted. What do they typically struggle with and have challenges with, and why? And then also, just before I forget the question, is how do you then, you talk about carrots, right? What's your, as opposed to the stick, how do you motivate the behavior that you want to see either in your managers or in reps?
Yeah, I mean, so you can do it through spiffs and other things. Honestly, I think the interaction of just calling up someone and telling them what a great job they did on a deal is underrated, right? We're a large organization. It's nice to send notes and do a one-to-one call from myself or even from, people higher in the organization, recognizing them. Those recognition, but everybody's motivated differently. Some people, those individual calls and the emails from higher up, they're good, but that doesn't do it. You have to know the people, right? What gets them excited? Some people get excited by that pat on the back and the thank you. They love the recognition. They love the recognition to the larger team. Some people, they want money. I've taken, guys to, the Toronto, I went to Canada, took the team to the Toronto Raptors game for a huge deal they did. And 2 of the SCs had never been to a NBA game before, right? That's a memory that we'll have beyond Dynatrace, right? We had such a great time just enjoying each other's company. And it was, in the scheme of things, it's something small, but to them, I thought it was something big, right? But then someone else would be like, hey, it's great that the CEO recognized my efforts in my deal, right? So you really just have to know the people. I mean, you're really just getting to know the individuals that work for you, and not in a programmatic, like I read it in a management book, so I do lunch every Friday. And not that I'm saying that's a bad thing, but it has to be genuine. If it's not your personality, it's not your personality, right? But anything that you do has to be authentic and genuine, because people know, they can tell when it's rigid and it seems like it's not genuine.
Yeah.
And for new managers, it's hard because all the people are coming from a different place and maybe inheriting a different team, right? So one manager who was a player who becomes a manager, I don't know. I haven't seen a lot of challenges yet. The one thing I tell them is let's find something that you can do that will help improve the outcome for the team. And so the individual that runs New England here for Dynatrace, I said, hey, why don't you figure out how we can get better prospecting alignment with the SDR team in the AE? So he set up a weekly meeting. They picked accounts with the SDRs. They report on it weekly, their progress, to your point, and it's worked great. And now we're doing it in another region inside my super region because it works so well. And so to me, that's leadership. That's the team seeing that the management is investing in improving the outcome for the team. I don't know the challenges. I haven't asked him what his challenges are, which I probably should now that you mentioned it. It's only been a couple months.
Right.
But I think it's hard when you go from being an individual contributor or manager. I was a player coach. That's the worst, hardest role to have in a company. You can avoid doing it. I would avoid doing it because one always suffers, right? And it's hard when I think you come from being a rep to being a manager, not to want to manage the deal the way you would manage the deal. And that's not what I think a manager's job is. I'm not trying to clone 35 Eric Shermans in an organization to sell how I would sell, right? That's not effective. Everybody's a little bit different. Literally, everyone is a little bit different. As long as we're getting the key elements, which exist in almost every sales cycle, then let the person be the person, because that's how they're most effective, right? Every golf swing isn't the same. Every basketball shot isn't the same, but the objective is the same, right? But you've seen some of you're a big basketball guy. You've seen some of the goofiest looking shots on the face of the planet. They aren't necessarily that straight execution, but they work, right? And so you have to be able to figure out, and I think it's a challenge for managers, how do I manage the different personalities inside of my team, given my personality, right? So my personality is different than some of the other managers, which is very different than some of the reps. And they all need to be treated differently. And I think that's hard to do sometimes, is how do you manage different personalities? How do you manage someone who's not energetic and vocal, but pragmatic and maybe not as, high energy? Then how do you manage a high energy person that's all over the place sometimes? So it's just, you learn it over time, right? You really do.
What were some of the, competencies I'll use that you saw in your rep that you promoted to that position? And then, because obviously I'm sure there are people listening right now that are individual contributors who want to transition into leadership roles. And then what are some of the core competencies, or even give me 3 core competencies if you can, in terms of the best managers that you've either managed, or perhaps maybe people that are mentors of yours, people that have led you and managed you in your career.
Sure. So the competencies that I see in them is really what the theme I've been talking about and we've been talking about here, which is how are you going to collaborate, coach, and work together, right? It's not, hey, here's a sales cycle, do it my way. It's help me understand why you would do that in the process. What are you expecting the outcome to be? Hey, can we try this? Have you thought about that? More collaborative than mandating, if you will. So how do you see that, right, in people? Well, when you run training sessions and people are on there collaborating, who's vocal? Who's engaged? Who's interested in it? Because you have to be interested in it, and not everyone is, and I don't fault them for that. You get a group of 6 reps together, and you will see who's engaged, who's collaborating, who wants to coach, who wants to participate, who's going to help others. And so this individual really was helping the new people on the team, because that's important. One manager can't help 3 new people, even 1 new person. You need many people to help a new person come up to speed. Are they there to coach? Are they easy to get in touch with? Do they respond when people ask questions of them? And do they show initiative? To me, they came to me and said, hey, I'd really be interested in that. What can I do? And then when you say, hey, think about some things you're going to improve and come back to me with some thoughts you have. And they come back with the thoughts and the initiative. Because when you're hiring someone, rep or manager, or whatever, you want them to have initiative. I don't want to always have to ask for things. Come to me with stuff. I don't want to always ask for stuff. So what I try to do in my career is when I identify something, go to your manager, help them out. Everyone's busy. Your boss's boss's boss, and everyone's busy. Help them out. When you identify something, help them out. Say, hey, this is what I'm working on. Here's what I see. I don't know, but you might not see this. I'm here to help you out. Maybe we can make this better. Don't always make it so that they have to do that. So, and honestly, the best managers and mentors I have, and that's one of the reasons why I am at Dynatrace, is because probably the most important mentor in my sales career runs sales at Dynatrace, and I'm lucky and fortunate enough to work with him again, is that he listens and he takes action. And one of the things I always admired was he took action. You can do a lot of analysis. You can paralyze yourself with analysis. You don't want to make hasty decisions, but make decisions. Make a decision, move forward. Make a decision, move forward. Keep improving. Make a decision, move forward. And it might not work out. And that's the other thing. I failed so many times, right? All the time, failing on stuff that just didn't work out. But what do? Learn from it and then try something else. And having a manager, and he's been great, that says it's okay to fail as long as we keep trying to get better. And so you have to, that's what I think is important about, being a good, manager. And then it's like, one of the things is just odd, right? It's just as simple as, I don't like to be introduced as the boss, right? And I really learned that from him. And he always referred to himself as, we work together, right? And it's something maybe cheesy or whatever, but I liked it. And I never ask anyone to introduce me by title. I don't like it. If the title makes sense to get a meeting and email, fine. It's this game that people like to play. But really, the people doing the work are way more valuable than what I'm doing on a day-to-day basis. I mean, they're on the front lines battling every day. I'm not. They're way more important than I am. And so I don't like them to introduce me like that. I try not to. You go to a meeting and you introduce what you do. And I introduce myself as, I work with this team in sales. I work together with them, and that's really how I feel, right? It's not a cheesy thing. It just sort of happened. That's how I was treated. And that's now how I sort of treat everybody or people that I work with. I don't go into a meeting and say, make sure you tell them I'm the VP, or say I'm the boss. I get oddly uncomfortable now when people say, well, he's the boss. No, I'm not the boss. We work together. It's just, I happen to be in this position and you happen to be in that position. You really like the position you're in, and I like the position I'm in. We're just helping each other become more successful.
To go back to the, the sports analogy, it's like in basketball, there are 5 positions on the court, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, where you want to talk about guards, forwards, and whatnot. But, they're all, playing together with the same goal in mind, which is to win the game, right? And so to your point, whether you're an RSD or RVP or an individual contributor, you're all just trying to execute the same thing, which is to, help the company and bring in more deals.
And one thing I've learned more recently, since I've come to Dynatrace, we're in a hyper-competitive environment. Dynatrace is really competitive, and it's great. But what I've tried to change in a mentality is, we're not comparing, we're competing, right? And it's funny because you like the Celtics too, like I do. And Brad Stevens did the Zoom talk, and the person asked him, "Hey, you watched the Jordan documentary, and who do you think is the best ever? Is it Jordan or is it LeBron or whatever?" And I liked his answer, and he said that. He said, "You don't compare, you compete," right? And I say to the folks now, we're playing golf. We're not competing against each other. It's not fair to take a really seasoned rep with a high quota who's been here 5 years and compare them to a brand new rep who's been here 6 months. And it's subtle, but you'll share charts, you'll share data, and you'll be like, look at this guy. And what that can do is it has a negative effect on some folks who are like, boy, I'm not living up to what I should be. And it's like, no, wait a second. Right now, you're playing a different golf course than that other person. That person's playing from the back tees. You're playing from the white tees. And you're only playing, you're only playing par threes right now. That person's playing par fives, or whatever the silly, cheesy analogy you want to work. But comparing those two people, I think, is sort of can have a negative effect on the newer person and sometimes even the senior person, because maybe they're not generating enough pipeline, but it's like, man, they're closing huge deals, right? It's a different game. So I really look at it as try your best. Do not compare. They are competing, and you are competing in golf always to get a better score. I shot a 85. What do you want to do? Shoot an 80. The person who's shooting 80 wants to shoot a 75. You talk to any golfer, they all stink. The 2 handicap and the 15 handicap both stink. That's good because they both want to get better. And that's really the point to that is you're comparing that person against their results, always getting better, right? And that's what the challenge with really experienced reps who have done well. The hardest attitude sometimes and behavior to change is folks who have been successful doing it one way all the time. And you're always getting better. I don't care how good you are, you're always getting better. And if you watch the Jordan documentary, which I know you did, what I thought was one of the key or best parts of it that's fascinating that relates to what we do and what everyone does, he lost to the Detroit Pistons. He's the greatest basketball player in the world at that time. And what did he do? Instead of complaining about the refs or complaining about his teammates, he said, I'm not strong enough to handle the beating I took from Lambier and Rodman and those guys inside. I need to get stronger. I need to get better so I can come back and beat them next year. And really, that should be the mentality of everybody, especially of seasoned, really good reps. I can get better all the time. So, yeah.
Amazing. You make me better, Eric Sherman. That's for sure.
Where's my money? Hold on. Is this good? I pay you now?
Yeah, you can just Venmo it. I'm holding my phone.
I pay you now. No, I don't know. I mean, what do I know? I'm just a cog in a rather big wheel.
You know a lot, my friend, and I appreciate it. I feel like we could go on for another hour, but I want to be respectful of your time, especially since this was last minute, and then also respectful of the people that are listening. So I want to end it with the Rapid Fire 5, which is a new feature here that I do on Over Quota. I haven't done it consistently, but I want to do it consistently. You're the great person to do it with. So Rapid Fire 5, where I ask 5 questions, and then you answer them as succinctly as you'd like. And I'll try not to ask any follow-up questions because I'm curious about everything. All right. First question: what are you most excited about right now, either personally or professionally?
What am I excited about? The future of the company. Okay. It's just such an exciting time to be at Dynatrace, and it's not to push Dynatrace or pump Dynatrace. I mean, even with COVID going on right now, as you can see on the market, companies that are innovating through their software, because everything is software now, companies who are innovating rapidly, automating, are winning. And you see it every day. Who are the retailers who are dying? Who are the ones who are succeeding? And so I think it's a really exciting time to be here. And I just really, I laugh every day with my team, and we can't get around it because you know me, I'm a jokester and I like to have fun. We laugh every day. We work hard. We laugh every day, and I love working with them. I mean, I've got such a great team right now. I've been really fortunate and blessed to have such a great group of people to work with. It doesn't come around all the time, and so I'm really fortunate, and I appreciate it.
Shows I've been privileged to sit in on a couple of those things, and yeah, I can tell for sure. What activity do you miss the most since we began sheltering in place? And obviously we're in phase 4, I think, now in Massachusetts, but
Oh, no brainer. I love being in the field with the team. I mean, I love going to Philly and going out with the guys for a couple of drinks. I love going to New York City and just having lunch. I would call it. I'll get him to listen to it, but I would call it. You know that book Tuesdays with Maury.
Yep.
I would have lunch with Paulie, who's one of the longtime reps here at Dynatrace, and just sit in New York City downtown and have lunch with him and just chat and get to know him. And he's a great guy, and I appreciate that time. I miss that time. That's what kills me the most is the social aspect of going up to Toronto and going out with the guys after work and just enjoying and spending time with them is what I miss the most.
I could have sworn you were going to say going to the Celtics games.
Yeah, no, it's good point. Oh, that too.
Yeah, right. With the guys. What keeps you motivated? I'll take a sip of water while you think.
I think just the possibilities that exist. Dynatrace is doing great as a company. I see so many things that we can do better, and that motivates me. We need to do those better. I think we're growing at X rate. I think we could grow even greater than that if we really improve on some things and get those things working better. And being a part of an organization that allows you to bring those to the table and work on those things, even if they sit out of your immediate responsibility, is exciting. I think without that, I wouldn't be as excited about the opportunity at the company. But being able to work with people who understand that we can always improve and want to improve and work on those things is important to me.
You seem like you obviously have you're a busy guy, right? You have a lot going on. You manage a large organization over there. What piece of advice do you have for people, or a tool that you use to help keep you productive and focused?
I don't know that there's any tool or thing like that. I think what you end up happening, and I'm a victim of it myself, is I'm not the best at blocking off my time to work on the initiatives that need to be worked on, right? So admittedly, I think that's the thing I need to work on. It's not the greatest strength. You can get tied up in email and reacting all day long to things. That really isn't making progress, right? As a guy who used to run partners for me at Core Security used to say, don't mistake motion for progress. Just because you're busy doesn't mean you're making progress. And, reminding myself of that take time to make sure you're working on the important initiatives to help improve the business on a daily and weekly basis. It's hard to do. I have to admit, I don't think I found a tool that does that. That's just something you have to commit to doing, like exercise. You can download the greatest app, buy P90X, buy the Peloton. You can put all those things in place. But if you don't set aside the time to do it and make time do it, you're not going to improve, right? So it's really just setting aside the time and doing it.
Awesome. And almost like eliminating things in order to move forward. And lastly, what's the best way for people to just connect with you and say thank you to you for sharing everything you shared here on Overquoted?
Just send money, PayPal. No, I'm kidding. Cash is king. No, I mean, people could. People can grab me on LinkedIn. I'll accept their invitation. I'm fine with networking with anyone. And what I don't like in the industry from vendors all over the place is bashing salespeople. Right? We're all trying to sell. If people do it in a respectful manner, everyone's just trying to help each other out. Be courteous of those folks who are making cold calls. I pick them up sometimes. If you're not interested, just say, hey, listen, I'm not interested. It's not the right time. But also as salespeople, allow people to say no. Don't harass them in email and send them more phone calls when they said no. Pick up, be respectful, and they'll give you the time. We've bought products in past. I bought products in past lives from people who have, just called up and cold call. But listen to what the person has to say. If it's really not the right time and they're not responsible, be respectful, right? On both ends. I've seen, vendors say, security vendors sent this stupid email or whatever. That's not helpful, right? Take the time, be a good citizen, take the time maybe to send an email back and say, hey, listen, this isn't really a helpful email. It'd be much better to approach me like this, right? Because by the way, just calling them out like that's not going to change their behavior. Maybe help them out. You know, maybe someday down the road, someone will help you out with something if you help them out. So, you know, I'm more than willing to get the LinkedIn invitations and the conversations or whatever that, you know, I'm open.
And mention the Overquota podcast, because then that'll prioritize his response to you. Right, Eric?
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
That's right. That's
No
right.
doubt. No doubt.
Awesome. Eric Sherman, thank you for going over quota.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Goodbye, everybody.